right, guys, it is that time again. Welcome back to the podcast. So I have been out of this game for the last 6 months. I've not uploaded an episode in the last 6 months, and I really want to tell you where I've been, why I have not uploaded in the last 6 months, and then dive into something a little different towards the end. But first of all, this is a little bit different than I usually do it. First of all, I'm not walking through the streets of Shanghai like I do most often when I record. I'm actually at home in my home office, but I'm also filming it for YouTube at the same time. So just a little experiment, doing something different. But since I am recording at home, you might see my dog on screen because she might jump in my lap because she's sitting right off camera over here. And there's been some construction off and on for some reason above me. So all apologies if some of that comes through the audio. So let's dive right into it. Where have I been? So, I take on too much quite often. I have way too many interests. Plus, I work full time, and I'm a full time dad, full time husband, all those things, social engagement, stuff like that. So, when I looked at what I take on, I had to make some choices. So, for me, my crazy time of year at work starts around June. And June to October, the end of October, is super busy for me at work, kind of in general. So, I had to make some tough choices in June, and there's really 3 reasons. And some of them I got better at, and some of them I got worse at, I guess, is one way of looking at it. But the 3 reasons are priority setting. So in June, I realized I have to set some priorities for my creative life, my personal life, and my work life in order to get everything done that I wanted to get done. So as some of you know, if you listen to my podcast or if you know me personally, and I've even maybe alluded to it, I think a little bit in some of my Instagram posts, I have been working on a book, a fiction book, a novel for 4 years, probably longer actually, probably closer to 5 years at this point. So now, I don't work on it every day. I've gone through peaks and valleys where I spend a ton of time on it, and then there's some times where I hardly spend any time on it at all. So, but I had made a commitment to turn in my final edit to my editor, and I had to get that done by the end of the summer. So that's basically what I poured my creative energy into, was finishing that draft. So something had to go on the back burner. I'm not going to stop taking pictures because that's a deeper passion than probably podcasting is. But I just had to make a choice. I had to make a tough choice. So I stopped uploading podcasts. I stopped recording them, stopped uploading, and I turned that time attention back into my writing so I could get that final draft polished and sent to her. Now, she has sent back her comments after reading it, and unfortunately there's more work to do. So I am now busy in those final edits, but the edits aren't as big, so it's not as heavy lifting, I don't think, at least not yet. So I don't anticipate being crazy with that going forward. So I should be able to get back on track with podcasting, YouTube, and of course Instagram. So the other thing that I had to really think about was self-awareness, and I try to be a very self-aware person, strengths and opportunities, and I came to a deep realization that I had just kind of taken on too much. I alluded to that when I first started talking on this episode, but I was just way too inundated with stuff. There was some personal stuff going on too, nothing major, but took up some time, took up some energy, and I just had too many competing priorities all at the same time. So I had to, again, make some choices. The other thing is, like I said, work gets busy in June. So my company that I work for, we start our annual review process in June, July, and then we go into our busy sales season beginning usually in September. So, and that takes us through the holidays, very intensely up to the end of October usually. So that was another reason. I think the last reason that I want to really touch on is laziness. I think of myself as a very motivated person, a very goal-oriented person. I do actually get a lot done in my work life and in my creative life, but I'm not overly organized. People think I am, and I do help mentor people with time management at work, But this is a new skill of mine. In fact, 5 or 6 years ago, I really struggled with time management, to the point where my previous two bosses ago was extremely frustrated with me because I just couldn't get stuff done in a organized manner. So, I realized in June, July that I was really getting disorganized again. So, a couple things that I've done here just this week and have helped me be able to then prioritize my life and really ratchet up kind of my ability to overcome that laziness. And that is to do a value study. And I'm going to make a whole YouTube video on this later, but I just did it today, actually. So you'll see, I filmed it earlier. So you'll see it today. I'll post it in a week or so. But pretty much every year, actually, I don't do it every year, but every couple years for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been doing a values survey. And what it is just a list of words that are values. And then you just kind of circle your top 10 that are really important to you. And then you make sure that your goals for the year or longer term goals align with your values. And then you take a deep look at your daily routines and make sure that they map to the goals and the goals align with your values. So I had to redo that this year. So I just did it today. Again, look for that video. But for me, it's really the only way to feel completely fulfilled in my life. And getting that laziness conquered by making sure that I'm focusing on the right things, the things that are bringing me value, that are making me feel fulfilled as a creative person, and also as a father and as an employee. So, I don't know. I just deeply believe in reassessing yourself at the end of every year and then making a plan for that new year. I don't always do it in deep detail. I'm going to go a little bit more detailed this year because I think that was the missing ingredient from last year where I wasn't as productive and a couple things snuck up on me. And it's funny because self-awareness, that's why I mentioned it earlier, it's such a superpower if you can really harness it because, in my job, I have 150 direct reports, about 150 people that report directly to me. And my role primarily is, well, not only to deliver a profitable business unit, but it's also to be part of each employee's personal development. And that means I spend a lot of time with my team. I spend a lot of time breaking down maybe their struggles or their hurdles, mostly in their career, but sometimes in their personal life, to be quite honest. And even though, if some of you know me, I don't really talk about my job in my social platforms by design. I want to keep them separate. However, I can speak kind of in general about it. You wouldn't think of myself as like a life coach in quotes. That sounds kind of corny in my opinion. But that's basically what I do, honestly. So yes, I have to deliver a profitable business for my company, and that's my, I guess, on paper, that's my primary role. But really, day to day, it's about helping people figure out how to achieve their dreams and grow as people. So, anyways, my point is the reason I share all that is, 8 hours a day, 8+ hours a day throughout the year, I'm deeply involved with personal development. So I really need to step back this year and start listening to some of the advice that I give. Now, a lot of the advice that I give, I've already mastered or I've already integrated into my life. But some of it that I've learned recently, I haven't really deployed great yet. And that's something that I really want to master this year is, I guess, just mastering my time. So deeper time management. And I'll get into this again in the next video that I want to share. But what I see most often is people's daily habits and routines don't map directly to their goals, and then they certainly don't reinforce the things that they value in their life. And if I reflect on my 2019, even though in a lot of ways I accomplished a lot, there were big gaps in time where I spent too much energy on things that didn't map directly to my goals, that then did not reinforce the things that I truly value in my heart. So this year, I want to take a step back. I spent some time today. By the way, it's December 28th. So, I kind of go into hiding. I kind of go into my cave here into the office, and I spend a ton of time self-reflecting, thinking about the past year, what I did great, what I didn't do so great, and then building a plan for the next year. Now, I don't stick to it all. I don't do it all. That's part of the evaluation process at the end of the year, is to see, where did I fall short? What were the things that I screwed up? What were the things that I thought were an amazing plan, or that were planned amazingly, that ended up just not working for me for whatever reason? And there's always going to be life. Life gets in the way. But something that I've seen with my employees and even with myself is that if there is a recipe, in quotes, if there's a recipe for depression, anxiety, financial, spiritual, career, relationship, suicide, trust me, it's not putting in the work every day with routines that build to your goals, that reinforce the things that you value. When those things are not aligned, if your daily habits and the things you spend your time on literally don't help you achieve your goals, and then your goals aren't aligned with the things that you really feel in your heart, you're completely misaligned, and it builds misery, in my opinion. So, so that's where I've been. I mean, that's a long explanation of kind of where I've been in the last 6 months and why I have not uploaded a podcast. But the last thing I want to touch on in the video today, or the podcast episode, I guess primarily, I'm going to post it there first and then follow it up with the video, is I want to get into expanding the last YouTube video that I posted about 10 days ago, I guess. And it's all about conquering your fears in 2020. Now, the reason I want to spend some time on this episode to expand the message in the video is because I've actually had a pretty good reaction from some friends and family who have seen it. So now, if you look on YouTube, there's still not a ton of people who have seen it, because nobody watches my YouTube channel, basically, statistically, because I don't upload on it that much. That will change in 2020. Promise, promise, promise. I'm going to get better at it. It is a major goal of mine, and I just need to figure it out, because I actually enjoy making videos. I enjoy the process of making videos. I enjoy the process of getting better every time with each video. At least I think they're getting better. I don't know if you agree, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm doing it for myself mostly. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about that video, and not just the video, I guess, but the message behind the video. So I realized over the last few years that while I've conquered a lot of my fears, and the video goes into some more personal stories than probably I've ever shared with those of you who don't know me, of course. And I explain a little bit of my backstory, a little more of my backstory, a little bit of how I got to where I am today, and how still, to this day, some of my fears dictate way too much of my life, hold me back in ways that I'm not proud of, in ways that are still frustrating to me. And I don't want that to be. I don't want that to continue going on year after year after year. So I think if you haven't seen the video, please check it out for a couple of reasons. Hopefully you like it and you get something out of it. One thing, I guess my thesis right now, or one of my guiding principles for like my YouTube channel, my podcast, even my Instagram account, is I want to inspire people to get out there and see the world. And the reason for that is I truly feel that travel can help save the world. And there's a lot of people, especially like environmentalists, or maybe some more hardcore, I hate to say liberal, because that's not right. That's a terrible term, because I consider myself mostly liberal. But there is a faction of people right now who are really throwing shade on people who travel often. And most of that is because of climate change and how much impact at like the carbon accumulation level of a flight across oceans, across the world. And they're not incorrect. It's incredibly dirty to fly across the world. And of course, there's ways to offset your carbon. You can buy carbon credits. You can plant a bunch of trees. You can, do various things to cut down that impact. And I recommend that we all look into those things. You make your own choices. I'm not going to share too much of what I do or don't do for fear of backlash or, this just isn't that video. Maybe I'll make one in the future. But I encourage you to look into those things if that's something that bothers you. But what I've learned from living now in 2 foreign countries for multiple years each time, close to multiple years each time, is about 1.5 years in the first country, and now almost 5 years in China, traveling extensively throughout my adult life, I don't feel that there's any better way to build empathy. And empathy, to me, is a superpower that the world needs right now. So for me, the more I share my pictures of travels, the more, travel vlogs I make, the more podcasts I upload about what it's like to live day to day in Shanghai, China, hopefully that will inspire more people to want to get out there and see the world. And by seeing the world, there's a greater chance to build more empathy. And I think that's exactly what we need in our world today, especially in our political system. We have to be able to look across the world, to look at somebody who has a different religion, lives in a different country, believes different things, has a different job, looks different, sounds different, and see ourselves in their eyes. That is what I've learned through travel. And, that's really my goal with thinking about that fear video, is that there's still things that, even though I've got all those realizations and it's something that I really believe in, is get out there, see the world. Over the last couple of years, I haven't traveled that much. Again, for some very specific reasons, but I haven't made it as big as of a priority. And I think part of that is because I live in, I'm looking out over here over Shanghai right now out my bedroom window. And part of that is because I live in Shanghai. I live in an exotic place, at least by my upbringing. It's exotic. For the 26 million people that live here that are local, it's not exotic. This is home. So sometimes I don't feel compelled to push myself to even go see more, because day to day I still feel like a foreigner. So yes, Shanghai feels like home now, but I'll never be Shanghainese. I'll never be Chinese. That's okay. I'm not trying to be, but there's still this learning process and this assimilation process and this integration process that I find fascinating. So because that's my day-to-day, I guess maybe I don't feel as compelled to jump on a plane every weekend or a train every weekend to see more, to push those boundaries. Anyways, that's an excuse basically. And this year, I want to change that. So I want to take at least 3 medium big trips this next year in 2020, and possibly some smaller weekend trips to see more of China. Because to be honest, 5 years, every time I have a vacation, I try to leave, and it's not because I don't love China, but it's because I'm surrounded by so many other amazing places as well. So I want to jump on a plane because I see China every day, right? So when I have a vacation, I want to go to Singapore, Bali, Portugal, Spain, Dubai, some of the places I've been to over the last few years. So, this year I'm going to dedicate myself to that. And I think the other reason that I really wanted to dive into the fear video that I posted is, I've mentioned this before on some of my podcast episodes, and especially if some of you watch my Instagram stories when I'm working out. And I say when because it's not a daily habit, unfortunately, still yet. And if you've been following me for a few years, yes, I'm still battling through it, but I got a plan. I have a plan. Of course, I always have a plan to work out more, and it seems to always fail. But one day we'll get there. One day we will get there. I never quit. That's the one thing, is I never quit trying. Anyways, maybe that's a subject for another video, is maybe the secret of success with certain things that are really hard to master is just keep freaking trying, even if you never win till the day you die, because at least you're making some sort of progress, I would assume. Anyways, that's a side subject. So the reason I wanted to get more into this video about fear is because Um, I think most people are still living, even adults are still living a form of someone else's expectation of their life. I did this for way too many years. Way too many years. Too many years, really, that I would like to admit. But, for a really long time, I was living in a version of what I thought my dad wanted me to do, especially in my early 20s. Definitely my teens, but then early 20s to mid 20s. And some of that crept into even my 30s and 40s, unfortunately. So, you know, I've, uh, I've seen too much now, and I've met too many people, and I've helped develop too many people in my career. So I've been able to recognize some patterns. And one of the most harmful patterns that I've seen is living a version of your life that's not your life, that's not your vision, that's not your hopes and dreams. There's various reasons. There's probably a reason for every human on earth why we don't kind of confidently race towards our own vision of our life. But a lot of it has to do with family, friends' expectations. We don't want to disappoint our family. We don't want to disappoint our friends. But what I've noticed is people are literally dying slowly, miserably, because most of their energy and their time and their heart and their toil is going into a life that they don't want, that's being built by their sweat, by their money, by their investment. It's being built, and it's not something they want. So I've largely broken out of this, but there's still some stuff that's lingering, and that's what the video that I'm referring to, the fear video that's on YouTube now, check it out. That's what really at its core that video addresses. Now, I don't have it all mapped out. I don't have a full plan yet. I do have some ideas about certain things that I think I need to confront to make sure that then I have the tools and the strength to just be a better person for myself first, and then of course for my family and the people that I love. So that's really what I wanted to get across in that video, and it's not very long. It's only 10 minutes, so I don't go into a ton of detail. That's why I kind of wanted to maybe expand it here a little bit, because that video is more designed to just be an inspirational diving board to jump into something else for yourself. I don't know your dreams. I don't know your pain. I don't know your backstory. I don't know your frustrations. So I'm never going to be able to help with that. But if I can share my struggles, a little bit of my story, a little bit of the realizations and the learns that I've had, then hopefully that can help somebody else and inspire people to live a better life for themselves. And trust me, I know this from experience. I know this from many, many, many years of living a version of my life that was just fake. And even when I thought I was being authentic, it really wasn't coming from me. It was coming from multiple voices in my head that were all reminding me of what life should be, of what a responsible life looks like, of what a person like you should be doing. And some of it was good advice, of course. Our parents never have bad intentions. Well, I guess probably some parents do, but hopefully they get sent to prison. But most parents give this advice because they love you. I know my dad meant well, and he did pass on a lot of amazing things. I mean, I am a voracious reader because of my father. I am intellectually curious because of my father. I am an autodidact because of my father. So there's a lot that he shared, and there's a lot that I don't regret. In fact, I don't really regret any of it because it's all made me, and I'm pretty happy with at least this current version of me. But we could get better. We're going to, always. But he didn't set out to slow me down or cause me pain or make me frustrated or ruin my life. That wasn't his intention. But I think we all need to step back and ask ourselves, what, how much of our parents' wishes, legacies, are we trying to live out for them? It's not healthy. I mean, I guess unless you 100% align with the dreams and goals of your parents, which is probably incredibly rare, but I'm sure it happens, then cool, no worries. If you're happy, awesome. Like, awesome. But if you feel this like aching emptiness in your body, in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, whatever you believe in, if you feel this void, you got to look inward. You have to put yourself on trial and examine, are you living your life, your version that you want to live, or are you living some sort of a puppet show for people who, more than likely, are going to be dead and gone before you are? So then what happens, right? Mom and dad die, okay? Like me, my dad's dead. My dad died about, I'm terrible, I should know this, 12 years ago, sorry. And, you know, I miss him deeply. I loved him, right? But 12 years ago, you know, I was 34. And then I started trying to figure my life out at 34 because he was no longer there. And the expectations that he had of me, however softened they became over time, and they did soften. I mean, my dad grew a lot in his deeper adulthood before he passed away. But those, I don't want to say trauma because that sounds too inflammatory, because I lived a pretty great life by most measures across the globe. I lived an amazing life. But there were some tough times for me because of the relationship I had with my father. And I had to get over that. Like, I had to figure that out. And it began really after he died. So for the last 12 years, I have been on a journey of kind of rediscovery for myself. And I went through some really stupid stuff. I did some things that I'm not proud of. I have acted in ways that I am not proud of. I've been lazy. And I pissed away a lot of those years in that 12-year search for my path. Now, I say this now, December 2019, I'm 46 years old, 46 and a half. I am not telling you that this is the fully formed version of Michael Mast, forever and ever, amen. That's not going to happen. I will continue to evolve. I will continue to change. Hopefully, that's my goal. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is, for the first time, I feel that I am closer to understanding who I truly am at this point. The fear video is to push me this next year into figuring out that last 5 or 10% that's eluding me for my current makeup, okay? Now, my hope is once I figure those 5 or 10% out that is still kind of like this mystery off to the side, like I can kind of hear the footsteps, kind of like the nightmare in the video. So if you haven't seen the video, the beginning starts off with an examination of a reoccurring nightmare that I've had since I was a kid. And it's basically I'm walking in a forest and I hear footsteps and then I wake up as the footsteps are like basically right on top of me. I can't see anything. I don't know what's chasing me, but and then I wake up. So that's kind of the way I think about this 5 and 10% that's still left to be discovered about myself. And a lot of that 5 or 10% I feel is still wrapped up in these things that I just deeply fear, that I have to push through to find out those mysterious bits of me that lie on the other side of terror, fear, whatever you want to call it, insecurity. So, yeah, guys, that's it. I really wanted to just expand on that, explain where I've been for the last 6 months as far as the podcast goes. If you follow me on Instagram, you see me post, multiple times per week, sometimes every day. It depends on what's going on. So I'm not dead or missing. But if you're only a podcast listener, you probably think I was, hit by a bus or something. But no, I have not been hit by a bus, which could actually happen at any moment in China. If you've ever been here, you know of what I speak. All is good. I'm going to get back on track in 2020. So thank you. As always, I appreciate anybody who spends the time to listen or to read or to watch my content. I know you guys have busy lives. I know some of you are extremely goal-oriented, driven people, and we're going to have our best year ever in 2020. That's the plan. but I still appreciate if you do slow down for a moment and take a look at some of the stuff that I create. If you do find yourself on my Instagram account or my YouTube page or on this podcast, please, guys, take a moment and subscribe, and maybe leave me a comment. I'm super open to feedback as long as it's professional and kind, and it's not, I had a terrible comment today on my YouTube channel, just repugnant, honestly. So I immediately blocked the guy, but just terrible. So, I know there's those people out there. The way I try to look at it is I feel bad for him. It says way more about him than it does about anything about me. But it just reminded me to, really appreciate anyone who engages in a positive way. As you know, as I said earlier, one of my goals in life is to continue to push this positivity, this growth of empathy across the globe by travel, by sharing travel stories, by sharing our growth through seeing other places, meeting new people. And, one way we can do that if we can't meet physically is to share thoughts, share good wishes across the internet. So please subscribe, please leave me a comment, and like always, I'll talk to you guys next time.